Between the Red Sea and the Dead Sea, one city held a trade for 600 years. Two resins the ancient world could not live without. Then Rome arrived, and the silence returned.
The Nabataeans were not Roman. They were not Greek. They were Arabs from the desert, nomads who learned to read the sky for water and the sand for routes that no one else could follow. By the 4th century before Christ, they had begun something improbable in the cliffs of southern Jordan, a kingdom carved from rose-red sandstone. Generations later, their descendants would shape those cliffs into the monumental facades the world still sees today. Their capital was Petra. For travelers approaching from the desert, the city revealed itself slowly. A narrow gorge, the Sick, opened into a hidden valley where temples and tombs were cut from rose-red sandstone. But Petra was not built for beauty. It was built for control. Two trade routes converged here, one carrying spices and silks from India and Arabia, one carrying frankincense and myrrh from the southern coast of the Arabian Peninsula. Both routes ended in the same place. Both routes paid the same toll. The Nabataeans charged 25% on every shipment that passed. By the 1st century, modern scholars estimate that between 7,000 and 10,000 camel loads of incense moved through their hands each year. Greek and Roman geographers gave the lands that produced these resins a name that endured: Arabia Felix, fortunate Arabia. The Nabataeans left no epic poems, no philosophers the world remembers, no empire of armies. What they had was the road. And what moved on that road, two resins, pale gold and dark red, gathered from trees that grew nowhere else, made them for 6 centuries the gatekeepers of the ancient world. But what they carried wasn't what made them powerful.
What they carried wasn't what made them powerful. What they knew was. In the workshops of Petra, the Nabataeans did something the southern producers never did. They processed the resins. They had no incense trees in their land. The boswellia and comifera grew more than 1,000 miles down the caravan road in the dry mountains of southern Arabia. But the Nabataeans had something the producers did not: the buyers. So they bought raw resin from the south, and at Petra they refined it into perfumed oils, into salves, into compounds the markets of Rome and Alexandria could not produce themselves. Archaeologists have found the evidence: a small incense burner from a site near Petra, organic residues sealed into the stone of Nabatean tombs, ungentaria, small ceramic vessels designed to hold processed oils recovered across the Nabatean territory. The Greek physician Dioscorides, writing in the 1st century, described what frankincense was used for: to fill the hollowness of ulcers, to draw wounds to a scar, to glue together bleeding flesh. He described what myrrh was used for: to dry, to close, to soothe inflammation, to clean the broken ear and the exposed bone. But Dioscorides only recorded what these resins did. He did not record how anyone first learned that they did it. That knowledge, the empirical knowing of which resin for which wound, in what proportion, applied how, moved through the caravans, across centuries, refined by trial, hand to hand, across people who never wrote it down. 2,000 years later, laboratories began identifying the compounds. In frankincense, a family of molecules called boswellic acids, identified for their anti-inflammatory action in the late 20th century. In myrrh, a class of compounds called furanodines, studied for analgesic and antibacterial activity. The chemistry was named. The road that carried the knowing had ended long before.
The year was 106. Rabel II, the last king of the Nabateans, died. He left no successor strong enough to hold the kingdom together. Trajan was emperor of Rome. Rome had been pressing against the southern frontier for a generation. In the spring of that year, the Roman governor of Syria moved his legions south. They occupied Petra and Basra. Ancient writers recorded little resistance. The kingdom of stone became the province of Arabia Petraea. The Roman annexation did not destroy Petra. For a few decades, it grew. In 114, the city was granted the title Metropolis of Arabia. But the wider system that had made the city what it was, the long caravan route from the south, the customs tax at the gates, the workshops refining resin into salve and oil, that system began to lose its center of gravity. In Syria, 400 miles north, a smaller caravan oasis had been incorporated into the Roman province generations earlier. Its name was Palmyra. Under Roman roads and Roman protection, Palmyra rose to take the trade that had once flowed through Petra. By the mid-2nd century, Palmyra had become the leading caravan city of the Roman East. The frankincense and the myrrh still moved. The trees still grew. The chemistry was unchanged. But the people who refined the empirical practice of using them, which resin for which wound, in what proportion, applied how, were dispersed across markets, across legions, across the provinces of Rome. The processing did not stop in one day. It thinned across generations, across new languages, across scribes who copied the names of substances but not the practices of those who first knew them. In the modern era, the chemistry was rediscovered. The road that carried what to do with it was never rebuilt.
600 years. 2 resins, pale gold and dark red. 1 city, Petra, where the routes from south and east converged. 1 year, 106, when Rome arrived and the kingdom became a province. The trees still grow in Oman and Yemen. The compounds are cataloged in modern laboratories, but the empirical knowledge, the practice of knowing which resin, in what amount, for what wound, lived only in the people who carried it. Some knowledge survives when empires fall. Some knowledge falls with them. This was the trade in 2 resins, one story among many of what humanity once knew and what was lost in the gaps between civilizations. This is Atlasion, what they knew and we forgot.